Hi, I'm Abhinav Lohia. I'm the Director of Global Business Development at Golden Gate Global. I've been involved with the EB-5 visa industry for over a decade. I was a partner at an EB-5 law firm based out of New York prior to becoming a finance professional and promoting EB-5 securities. I am also a dual qualified attorney. I practiced law in India for 5 years prior to moving to the United States. I'm also a contributor to mainstream Indian newspapers such as Times of India, Economic Times, Money Control, and Financial Times. In today's video, I will be discussing about source of funds considerations for Indian EB-5 investors. First up, disclaimer. The information provided on this presentation is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal and securities advice. While I'm still a licensed EB-5 attorney and also a licensed securities professional, I make these videos for educational purposes only. The aim is to assist investors in making an informed decision. Please do not consider it as legal advice. Always work with licensed professionals, whether it's immigration or securities, in making your EB-5 investment. So in this video, I will be discussing different sources of funds for Indian EB-5 investors. One of the most common sources over the years when I practiced as an attorney was sale of property. Here, I will be discussing based on how the property was acquired, whether it was self-acquired, gifted, or inherited. Then next step, I would be discussing about loan against property in India or a home equity line of credit in the United States. Then professional income, followed by business income. And lastly, I will discuss about the path of funds, the remittance considerations, the interplay between Indian remittance laws and US immigration laws, which includes Foreign Exchange Management Act and also Reserve Bank of India guidelines. So first up, sale of property. Now, property historically has been the preferred investment for Indian investors. So as it flows, a lot of EB-5 petitions when I started practicing were filed by liquidation of these assets. In order to satisfy USCIS about your source of funds, just showing a sale agreement followed by sale proceeds is not enough. USCIS wants to know whether this property was acquired by legal means. What that means is you have to demonstrate how you acquired the property in the first place. If you bought the property, they want to look at your ability to buy the property in terms of, did you have the financial wherewithal to either pay down payment for a loan and how then you paid those mortgage payments, or if you bought it outright on cash, how did you accumulate that cash? How did the savings come about? Was it professional income? Was it a gift from someone? Or was it your business income? Then there are some investors who had inherited property from their ancestors. So in those cases, they had to demonstrate, one, the relationship with their ancestor, be it the parent or grandparent or aunt or uncle, and then show the whole inheritance documents, the will and the probate, and if there was court involved, a court order. In certain cases, properties are gifted. Again, in India, because it's real estate and the laws require you to have a registered gift deed, so gift is well documented. But now the thing is you have to show how the giftor, the person who gifted you the property, acquired that property in the first place. Because it could very well be that a person acquired a property 3 or 5 years ago and gifted it to you. And that property could be bought with undocumented funds or black money or whatever. And USCIS doesn't want that. They want from root to shoot the source of funds to be clean. Lastly, there are a few cases where there are disputes and there is a court degree awarding a property to a litigant. So in those cases, again, you have to track the history of the property, present the court order, and then, of course, you show how this property was acquired. Then obviously, acquisition results in ownership. So you need to produce documents of ownership of properties. Now, if the property is in your name directly, that's great. But then in India, there are some other nuances. A lot of times there is this concept of Hindu undivided family property, which comes into play. So you have to produce literature with respect to HUF properties and explain it to USCIS how under the co-partner system, the property was acquired by the investor or part of the property, and they sold their half and received the funds. It is best practices, though not necessary, but it is a good idea to kind of document the factors for appreciation of property. So, I mean, I have represented clients from Delhi and Mumbai and Bangalore and Hyderabad, everywhere. And if you talk about Delhi, Gurgaon or Noida 25 years ago wasn't that expensive. And today the property prices are booming. So if you track the growth of those properties, that's a really good idea. Again, in Bangalore, there's an outer ring road and then another ring road, and there has been all around appreciation of property. In Mumbai, the BKC area really boomed, and all these financial institutions move from Nariman Point to BKC. So again, these are the things. If you document, it'll be easier for the adjudicator to grasp how a property worth 1 crore one day ended up being for 5 or 6 crore. Next is again, this is best practices, not necessary. From the local websites in India, you can show the comparative property prices in the same neighborhood to strengthen your case that what you are saying is not a blown up value of your property, that actually is a reasonable price for your property in that neighborhood. Then finally, once you've made a case for the valuation of the property, you show the sale documentation. There's a buyer, they make payments, all the documented payments in your bank, cash, or whatever receipts. You need to produce everything, and you can only use the documented funds in a property transaction for your EB-5. So once you have the receipt of funds in your account, then finally you transfer them to, if you're filing a regional center EB-5 petition, then you transfer those to an escrow account. So you show your bank account statements showing receipt of funds, and finally transfer to an escrow account. Now, up next is loan against property. Now, this is a very critical issue, and I'm very sensitive about this because a lot of immigration attorneys make this mistake. If you are in the United States, I'm jumping ahead a bit, you take a home equity line of credit, great. You show all the acquisition documents that we discussed in the previous slide, and you show you received a home equity line of credit against your equity in your house. You transfer that to the escrow account, golden, love it. All EB-5 attorneys love that. However, problem arises when the same attorneys tell investors to take a loan against their properties in India. Now, you can take a loan against properties in India. You have to make sure that the loan sanction letter is unrestricted. A lot of times, the loan sanction letter will have, hey, this loan is for improvements. Or if you're taking a line of credit against a company, that line of credit is just for, services provided by that company. So in order to use loan proceeds for EB-5, that loan has to be unrestricted. There should not be a purpose assigned to it. That's one. So again, you have to show all the acquisition documents, how you got the property in the first place, then the loan sanction letter, the loan proceeds coming to your bank account. Now comes the biggest issue of them all. When you try to remit funds overseas that have been loaned from a bank, a lot of banks have an issue with that because up at the time of recording this video and for the last many years, overseas transfer of bank loans is actually not allowed under the Indian remittance laws, and it has to be structured properly. So your local bank manager who's trying to meet their targets, they will obviously give you the loan. The problem arises when this transaction goes to let's say there is a branch in Bombay that handles all the foreign remittances. That's when they flag it as and don't allow that transaction to happen. So now you're stuck with a loan and you're paying interest on it, and it's useless to you because it cannot leave India. So make sure that you're working with the right professionals in India who know what they're doing and can structure these loans or figure out some other way of remitting funds out of India. Next up is professional income. Now, this could be professional income earned in the United States. In India, I've represented clients from Dubai, from Singapore, from Hong Kong, Japan. And, In almost all cases, the source of funds are similar, and the documentation required is also fairly similar. So first step is, again, start from the root, document your employment. You produce a resume, you produce your employment agreement, maybe an HR letter talking about your current position, your compensation, about your historical data with the company. Like I said, document your current position and compensation. Then you have to show your bank account statements to the level of how you accumulated $800,000. So you receive your professional income into your bank account. Now in India, the concept of FDs, which is equivalent of CDs in the United States. So you show your fixed deposits, you show your systematic investment portfolio, you bring out the statements of that, show the growth of your portfolio or mutual funds, and then you liquidate them and you receive the funds in your account. And then again, you show your bank account statements. And then you show your bank account statements that you received all these funds from your portfolio, and then you transfer them to an escrow account in the United States to file your EB-5 petition. Again, these documents are common. Well, in some cases, for instance, I've represented a lot of bankers from India, and there are ESOPs or employee stock options, and they have to vest, and then they have to be exercised, all those things. So it is, at least this is what I did. There is internal documentation within an institution where they explain how ESOPs can be used and liquidated and how you get your money. So I have actually quoted that clause from those agreements into the petition so that the USCIS adjudicator understands ESOPs. So again, this is one of those best practices thing, and this is all about avoiding RFEs and just getting a straight approval with your source of funds. Of course, you need to produce your tax returns. Best practices say 7 years of tax returns. Again, in certain cases, I used to get this pushback that, hey, income tax laws only require us to keep tax returns for 6 years. You're asking for 7 years. Well, again, it's best practices. You can either argue with USCIS or get a straight approval. So I recommend producing 7 years of tax returns. Things get more involved when there is business income, because now you not only have to document your personal, qualifications and position, but also you have to document the existence of the business, corporate documents, MOAs, AOAs, the position you hold with the company. Will there be income? Will there be distribution? All of that needs to be documented by an HR or get your company's CFO to, give you a certificate. Show the business revenues and incomes to show that it justifies your distribution. Of course, bank account statements showing receipt of those funds, remittance of those funds to the United States. And again, you need tax returns. So again, we are going to the root. We have to show existence of the business. We have to show your position in the business, why you're getting compensated, the ability of the business to give you that compensation, and finally, your investment. Now, some remittance considerations for Indian investors. The first thing is you have to take into account Foreign Exchange Management Act, or FEMA, and also RBI guidelines, which keep switching. So back when I started practicing in 2013-14, the remittance limit for Indians was only $75,000. We needed like 7, 8, I don't know how many relatives to just file one petition back in the day. Fortunately, the investment amount was $500,000 at the time. Today, as things stand, the remittance limit for Indian residents is $250,000, whereas for NRIs is $1 million. However, here's the catch. The RBI guidelines do not allow combining of limits. So let's say you have 4 family members remitting $250K each. So it makes it $1 million, but now the investment needs to be in all 4 persons' names. It cannot be in just one person's name. So this is an issue because EB-5 investors have to file an individual petition. It's an investment in one person's name. So again, you have to work with professionals that can guide you on how to remit these funds in a legal way. So EB-5 is not just about, source of funds, but also path of funds. So make sure that is done in a legal manner. if the primary applicant is, here in the United States on an F1 visa, H1B visa, etc., and the funds are coming from India, obviously you can receive it as a gift or maintenance money. That is perfectly fine. Your parents, your grandparents, your siblings can all remit up to 250K as long as they have a PAN card. And like I mentioned earlier, banking laws do not allow sending loan proceeds. So if you take a loan from a bank, you cannot, you have to structure it properly for it to be remitted overseas. The other thing is, when you're receiving gifts from friends or family, or a loan from friends or family, or an unsecured loan, they need to document their source of funds. So if you're getting a loan from, say, a sibling, now you have to dive into the source of funds documents of your sibling. If it's a parent, then you dive into source of funds documents of your parents. There is no way around not documenting source of funds. It is very important. USCIS does not want illegal money entering the United States. So again, hire the right professionals for filing your petition. This is it from me. We are Golden Gate Global, and we are headquartered in San Francisco. We have a presence in New York. We have a presence in Chicago. And if you have any queries, write to us, and I'll be happy to address them. Thank you.